Well, the Black Sash says the social relief of distress grant should be extended by 3 more months. President Cyril Ramaphosa announcing the extension during SONA, the State of the Nation address, on Thursday. Well, the Black Sash wants the grant made available to unemployed women who receive grants on behalf of children. So two big issues we have to unpack with Lynette Maart from the Black Sash. Lynette, morning to you. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, and I don't think many people are going to disagree that the, let's call it the COVID-19 grant, for the sake of this conversation, is highly inadequate. I suppose it does beg the question, where does the money come from in order to do this?
Right, let's put it like this. The COVID pandemic, as we said earlier on, continues to be an immediate threat. And unless large-scale vaccinations, or what they call herd immunity, is sorted, we're not going to see economic growth. That will be constrained. But there's an obligation on the state to provide healthcare, food and social security as important lifelines or first line of defense. Now, in his speech, President Ramaphosa said that we must overcome poverty, joblessness and hunger. He also indicated that the economic growth has declined by 6.6 and that there's an extra 1.7 million people unemployed. The figure that he quotes of unemployed people now is 30.8%. But we also know the expanded definition talks about 43.1%. Now, because we are in a state of emergency, it is important that government find the money to continue this grant. And we have, in our various presentations to government, made various ways in which this money can be found.
Are you able to give me, Lynette, are you able to give me one example? Because we'd love to unpack it all day, but just can you give me one example that stands out?
Yeah, one example is every year government gives rebates. And I mean, the rebates is at 2 levels. One is at the level of pension rebates. Now, if you just take the pension rebates, let's put it like that. Old age pensions at the moment is just under 2,000. But if you look at that rebate that is given, it's a lot of money. So if there is a cut-off point, not under 500,000 or under 500,000, and the rest of the people put their pensions, they don't get that rebate. There's already a lot of money that is available to direct in a different way. That's just one.
Let's talk quickly, if we could, Lynette. That's the one example, and I'm sure there's many, many of those. And you say you have spoken to government, you've been engaging with government. The reason I want to move on is I'm very interested in this. The COVID-19 grant should include adult women who are unemployed and receiving a child support grant. I mean, what are the numbers behind that? What's the thinking behind that for me?
Let's just, at the moment, there's just under 10 million people who have applied for the COVID grant. Of that, about just over 6 million get the grant. Now, when government introduced the relief package of 50 billion, one of the grants that was included in that package was also a caregivers grant. And that caregivers grant almost covered, so the child get the grant for the child, it's channeled through a caregiver. But the caregiver herself or himself, although a large a proportion of the caregivers, 98% of the caregivers are female and are black, that served as an income for them. So when government stopped the grant, that grant, in October, there is a large cohort of people that were left behind. 7.1 million caregivers do not receive any form of income during this time, even though they are unemployed and have no income themselves. And we're talking about people who do farm work, people who do domestic work, kind of are precariously employed and have lost their jobs, or don't have, I mean, if you get a child support grant, you also do a means test. So we're saying that that cohort, those caregivers in their own right, should be getting the COVID grant so that there's more income in the household to cover expenditure. And food has become very, very expensive.
It has. Lynette, I'm going to say thank you for the moment. I'm sure we're going to follow on and take this story forward as well as we try and find out about these 7 million people who aren't getting these grants. There's a number of issues you've raised, and I'm quite sure our team at eNCA are going to pick up on a few of those and investigate as well. But Lynette, to you, as always, a pleasure speaking to you. Lynette Maart from Black Sash joining us here on eNCA.